Revenge with Karen.
I knew something in me had cracked the moment I found myself scrubbing Danielle's name off yet another project I'd basically birthed from scratch. It was 11:47 p.m. Office dark, my back screaming. I was hunched over an Excel doc older than her tenure, trying to fix vendor codes she'd updated during one of her vision board frenzies. She turned a clean, color-coded procurement pipeline into a glitter-bombed apocalypse, complete with a pastel-colored emoji key. My name, gone, her name, top left corner. Danielle's Q4 innovation sprint. I stared at it, mouth dry. 8 years in this circus, and I still got to be the magician duct taping the tiger cage shut while the ringmaster posed for her daddy's LinkedIn. You ever work somewhere so long you start dreaming in Outlook calendar invites? That was me, Lisa, senior ops lead, though no one called me that. To them, it was, hey, can you fix this? Can you stay late? Can you cover Saturday? You're just so good at this. I couldn't possibly. I trained 3 entire departments, onboarded every exec assistant since 2017, and manually fixed a supply chain error once by calling a warehouse manager's mother because he'd ghosted us during fantasy football finals. The woman baked me cookies. Danielle took the credit. Don't worry, this ain't one of those I found her affair via Google Calendar stories. Nothing that spicy. Just your standard issue corporate grind, where the founder's daughter floats into leadership like she's allergic to gravity, and the rest of us are tethered to reality by crusty HVAC vents and expired printer toner. And look, before we go deeper into this tale of whiteboard betrayals and silent power plays, if you're listening and nodding because you are Lisa in your office, or you've got a Danielle 2 desks down, do us a solid. Hit that subscribe button, like the story. It's free, it helps the team, and it might just keep me from throwing this mouse across the room while I record the next one. Okay, cool, back to hell. Danielle wasn't evil. She was worse. She was inspirational, which meant she read 2 self-help books, started calling meetings touch points, and slapped the word agile on every crisis she caused. Example, she once ordered 300 units of the wrong barcode scanner, wrong frequency, wrong region, completely incompatible with our platform. Her fix: we'll use this as a teachable moment. My fix: calling procurement, lying about a data import error, and using my last favor with a distributor in Cincinnati to overnight the right batch. She didn't even know what happened. She thought the warehouse elves just pivoted. The real issue: she was protected. Danielle could have driven a forklift through the server room, and the founder, her dad, would have just blinked and said, she's learning. Meanwhile, if I misfiled one invoice, the finance team would pop out of the drywall like gremlins screaming about audit trails. And so I endured, because people like me always endure. We're the just let me handle it types. The ones who bring their own Advil to staff retreats. The ones who know the printer IP address and where the bodies are buried. But a funny thing happens after 8 years of swallowing your pride, your weekends, and every half-baked executive brainstorm that blows in from HR like a fart in a conference room. You start to get real quiet. Not the calm kind, the volcanic kind. The kind of quiet that makes the office plants lean away from you just a little. I started counting, not just hours worked, but tasks absorbed, crises diverted, promotions passed over. Every time Danielle flubbed something and I bailed her out, I logged it. I had a folder, a very boring, very legal-looking folder. And then came the Saturday that snapped it. I was on my 3rd energy drink, hair in a claw clip I'd had since the Bush administration, trying to reconcile delivery logs because Danielle forgot to confirm shipment windows before a site launch. And not just any site, the Q4 flagship launch, one she called her strategic masterpiece in front of the board. The one she hadn't touched since the kickoff Zoom. When I texted her about the delay, she responded with, "Can this wait? I'm out with my mindfulness group 2 Hearts Mindfulness." That's what she had. Meanwhile, I had a tension headache and a spreadsheet full of vendor rage. That Monday, I asked for a raise. I didn't bring it up during a meeting, didn't barge into her glass corner office with a soapbox and a manifesto. I just asked for 15 minutes. She sighed, pulled out a kombucha, and waved me in like I was a solicitor at her doorstep. And that's when she said it. "You're being selfish, Lisa. This isn't about you. We're all sacrificing." She said it like I'd asked for her kidney. Like I wasn't the reason her masterpiece hadn't become a class action lawsuit. And I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I just smiled. "You're right," I said. "Thanks for your time." Then I walked out, not out of the building, out of the game, and nobody noticed yet. But that silence you're hearing, that's the sound of the gears starting to grind. Not because I stopped working, but because I stopped saving. She didn't even look up from her damn phone when she said it. Spent the whole weekend sorting out the warehouse mix-up she'd caused by greenlighting a bulk order without checking inventory levels. We had 4 pallets of obsolete product scheduled to ship out to a VIP client, and I was the one calling in favors at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, while she was Instagramming her chai latte from some minimalist cafe that probably spelled weekend without the vowels. Come Monday, I asked for 10 minutes. Sure, she mumbled, clicking her keyboard like she was defusing a bomb. Just make it quick. I've got a Zoom in 6. She was seated in the office she'd reimagined after her last self-discovery retreat. Plants that were somehow already dying, a rug that looked like it cost more than my car, and one of those desks that can rise on command like it's got performance anxiety. I didn't rehearse a speech. I wasn't dramatic. I just laid it out. Told her that after handling back-to-back emergencies, including 3 of her own scheduling disasters, I thought a raise was overdue. Nothing crazy. Just enough to reflect the scope creep she conveniently ignored every time she delegated something into the abyss. I framed it in terms of retention, sustainability. Hell, I even dropped in a line about my loyalty to the company. The whole thing was measured, professional. And that's when she said it. She glanced up, briefly, and tilted her head, doing that squint-smile combo like I was a toddler trying to recite algebra. Then, you're being selfish. It hung in the air like stale perfume, the kind that gives you a headache before you realize it's poisoned. This isn't about you, she added, like she was solving world peace. We're all sacrificing right now. I'm sacrificing too. Oh, was she sacrificing in those rooftop yoga sessions, during her restorative wine tastings that somehow made it onto the company card as wellness mentoring? I was sacrificing sleep, dignity, and the cartilage in my knees from stress pacing around our cursed copier. But I didn't lash out. I didn't even flinch. I just nodded, like a waitress hearing a bad tipper say, "Keep the change." "You're right," I said, and I walked out. Not out of the building, mind you. I still had deliverables. I still had an inbox full of flaming trash Danielle had lovingly set ablaze. But I walked out of that room like something inside me had finally died, and good riddance. The part of me that clung to the idea that hard work would eventually get noticed. The part of me that thought maybe, just maybe, I'd earn a real seat at the table. You ever have that moment where your body goes on autopilot, but your brain's already 30 miles down the road, torching the exit signs? That was me. I smiled at the receptionist on the way back to my cubicle, said hey to Mark from IT, even helped one of the new hires log into the portal, and the whole time I was clocking what would change. First, I'd stop logging in after 5 p.m. That was their sacred hour now, not mine. Second, I'd stop checking in on weekends. If Danielle wanted to roll the dice, let her. I wasn't putting out fires she started anymore. I would document everything. Every dropped ball, every delayed approval, every approval that never should have happened in the first place. If I touched it, I logged it. If I fixed it, I timestamped it. And fourth, I'd stop answering questions that weren't asked directly. You want my help? You come to me, you ask. Nicely. Otherwise, good luck decoding the mess you made with your streamlined synergy model, or whatever buzzword soup Danielle had served to the board last quarter. See, the thing about being a fixer is that no one realizes you're fixing until you stop. They think clean processes grow on trees, that smooth audits and happy clients just happen. And I was about to give them a crash course in what didn't happen when Lisa stopped catching every single piece of falling debris. They didn't know it yet. Not the interns, not the project managers, not even Danielle's loyal band of middle managers who couldn't tell a workflow from a waffle iron. But I had exited the building in every way that mattered. My body was still there, but my sweat equity, my vigilance, my instinct to triage before something exploded, gone. Stripped clean like meat off a rotisserie chicken at a sad company potluck. And here's the kicker, they'd already trained themselves to rely on me. Like office plumbing. You don't notice it's working. Once the water stops, let's just say the stink spreads fast. The first weekend I didn't check my phone felt like detoxing off a drug I didn't realize I was hooked on. I set it on the kitchen counter, turned off notifications, and stared at it like it might start crying without me. It buzzed once, Danielle, obviously. Probably something about a missing shipment or a Sunday night prep deck she forgot to outline for the Monday stand-up. I let it ring. Then ring again. Then die in its own silence. Let it burn. That was the phrase that played in my head like a lullaby. Not malicious, not angry, just done. I wasn't going to delete files or tank the servers. I wasn't going to leave scathing messages or pull the fire alarm. I was just going to stop catching things. Like gravity had finally taken over, and I was letting the glass slip from midair. The first ball that dropped. Email from a regional vendor rep flagged urgent delayed PO. Confirmation. I usually replied to those within the hour, even if it came in at 9:47 p.m. while I was microwaving my sad little lean cuisine. But this time, I didn't. And guess what? Nothing exploded. Not right away. Monday rolled around, and Danielle barked something about those morons in procurement being behind again. No one looked at me. No one realized I was the airbag that didn't deploy. By Tuesday, a junior project coordinator was asking where the updated onboarding doc was for a new vendor portal. Normally, I'd have polished that thing into a flawless user guide by Friday at 6 p.m., but I had stopped writing it halfway through. My new policy: if it wasn't assigned to me in writing with a clear deadline, it didn't exist. I'd become a ghost, present, visible, and absolutely untouchable. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just watched. Watched as Danielle scrambled to fix her own prep decks without my formatting magic smoothing over the chaos. Watched her schedule back-to-back check-ins and forget to invite the one department actually executing the deliverables. Watched her forward time-sensitive documents to wrong contacts twice because she thought the client liaison's name was Marlon and not Marla. Meanwhile, opened a new folder on my home drive. Labeled it something innocuous, Q4 Materials Review. Inside, a curated symphony of receipts. Email chains with timestamps showing exactly when I escalated bottlenecks. Slack screenshots with her green-lighting things she hadn't even read. Meeting summaries where she assumed Lisa handled it. And most delicious of all, compliance deadline memos. Every single one I'd flagged, color-coded, and watched her ignore. I wasn't sabotaging. I wasn't even warning. I was just building the truth, one overlooked breadcrumb at a time. Danielle kept flailing. On Friday, she sent me a passive-aggressive Teams message at 6:13 p.m. Can you double-check the presentation for Monday? I think some of the charts look off. I didn't respond. Not Monday's problem, not my problem. I wasn't even in the loop for that project, not officially. Just assumed I'd clean it up the way I always had. But see, when you stop saving someone, they don't immediately notice. They think you're just slower than usual or off your game. It's only when the train starts veering off the track and nobody's pulling the brake that panic sets in. I gave them what they wanted, silence. They wanted me invisible? Fine. I became the ghost in the machine. Meanwhile, Danielle began to sweat. Little things. Like asking other team leads, hey, Lisa's seen this? Or trailing off mid-sentence when trying to explain a client request I'd normally interpret and execute before she finished her third iced coffee. One of the interns popped by my desk and whispered, hey, I think Danielle's freaking out. She kept asking where you were Friday night. I smiled politely. At home, I said, where I belong, and then back to work. Quiet, precise, detached. Every move I made from then on was deliberate. If she asked for something, I fulfilled it exactly as written. No padding, no polish, no psychic intuition to fix what she didn't know was broken. The shock hadn't hit them yet. That's the thing about offices, they can coast on inertia for a while. Momentum from the last person who gave a damn can carry everyone a few extra feet before the engine stalls. But I knew where the cracks were. I knew which duct tape patches were mine and which fires were quietly smoldering under the floorboards. When the smoke started creeping in, I'd have the receipts, neatly labeled, time-stamped, and very, very permanent. Monday hit like a hungover freight train. The kind where the office lights feel too bright, the coffee tastes like burnt rubber, and everyone's walking just a little too fast for no reason, like they know something's wrong but can't name it yet. Danielle came in late, not I overslept late. Not even traffic on I-70 late. This was the kind of late that shows up wearing oversized sunglasses and stress sweat already pooling under the arms of a blazer. She clearly didn't steam. She beelined to her desk without her usual parade of greetings and good energy, only morning affirmations. The vibe? Less girl boss and more Vegas blackjack dealer 5 minutes before shift ends. 10 minutes later, her voice cracked across the floor like a fire alarm. Where's the Carson shipment report? Could hear the panic vibrating under the surface. Like a balloon stretched too tight. The shipping lead, Rachel, poked her head into Danielle's office. The Carson units didn't ship. The PO was never finalized with the carrier. Danielle blinked. What? Lisa was handling that. And right there, right in that one breathless sentence, you could feel the floor start to tilt. Rachel, bless her, didn't flinch. She just said, Lisa doesn't work weekends anymore. Said she was stepping back from off-hours ops. Danielle froze. You could practically hear her blinking. I thought she was looping in the warehouse team. She told us to direct those to you moving forward, Rachel replied, matter of fact. That's what you asked, right? No reply. Danielle's jaw moved, but words were apparently still loading. Now, a normal boss, one with a basic grasp of responsibility, might have taken that as a wake-up call. But Danielle brushed it off like lint from a power suit. Fine. I'll check with procurement myself. Except she didn't know who was managing procurement this cycle. Because I had shifted the request queue before I withdrew, rerouting inbound queries directly to department heads. She never noticed. Thought it was just another streamline initiative she vaguely remembered approving during her combustion-induced strategy high. So when she went to follow up, she found the Slack thread archived, the email thread looped without her, and the shipping timeline logged in a folder she didn't have access to because she downgraded my admin permissions 2 weeks ago, thought she was being proactive. Cracks. Tiny at first. The warehouse team was confused about an updated label format she never signed off on. IT had sent her a password reset request she ignored. Vendor called asking why no one had logged into the new partner portal since she personally launched it last month. Spoiler, she never did. I did, quietly, while she was busy selecting mood board aesthetics for the company holiday branding. Meanwhile, I sat 3 rows away. Calm, composed, fingertips gently dancing across my keyboard as I reviewed contracts I used to vet for her, redline for her, summarize into cute bullet points for her board decks. Not anymore. Now she had to read, really read, not skim and forward, and it showed. At 10:23 a.m. she paced by my desk, twice, didn't stop, didn't speak, just hovered, like a wasp circling a soda can. Finally, she leaned against a support pillar and lobbed it in casually. Hey, did you happen to see that Carson update over the weekend? I didn't even look up. Nope, I said. Reassigned that one, remember? She blinked again. That was starting to become a theme. Right, of course. Just making sure it didn't get stuck in the pipeline. I smiled. The kind of smile you give to a raccoon digging through your trash at 3 a.m. Polite, patient, but definitely not inviting conversation. Later that day, a junior analyst asked if I'd be joining the Thursday budget pre-meeting Danielle usually dragged me into. I told her I'd been removed from that thread. Not my lane anymore, I said with a shrug. The analyst nodded slowly. Yeah, things feel a little out of sync this week. Just wait. Because see, the wheels hadn't come off yet. Not publicly. Not in a way the founder or the board would clock. But those little shudders, the out-of-office pings, the missed status updates, the slight delay in logistics, they were starting to compound. And Danielle was still playing pretend. Still thinking she could wing it, charm her way through the mess, lean on junior staff and half-baked talking points. She hadn't realized yet that I'd quietly removed the safety net, that the tightrope she was dancing across now had no bottom. And the best part, she thought she was still in control, thought she had time to regroup, reframe. She didn't realize the rope was already fraying. And Monday was just the warm-up, was buried on page 7 of a PDF no one read. A little bullet point at the tail end of a reorg memo sent out during Q3, the kind of corporate clutter people skim while stress-eating almonds and wondering if their badge still works after lunch. The memo said, in bland, HR-massaged language, that compliance operations oversight would shift under Danielle's strategic leadership to align with forward-facing objectives. Translation. Danielle now owned the quarterly regulatory report. The big one. The one with federal consequences if you screw it up. The one I'd handled solo for 8 years without a single late filing or flagged audit. No one asked me about the change. No one clarified what oversight meant. I didn't protest, didn't even email back. I just highlighted the deadline on the team calendar, same day as always, October 18th. And then I waited. She didn't see it. Or if she did, she didn't understand what it was. Danielle's idea of compliance was using a password longer than 1234. She thought filing meant uploading a JPEG of a signed napkin. And then she did something so magnificently stupid, it almost made me nostalgic. She scheduled the company-wide Q4 product demo for October 18th. Same time slot, same room, same bandwidth that the compliance servers needed for encrypted submission. She called it the vision reveal, sent out invites with confetti gifts, included a hashtag, and not a single soul stopped her. Because that's the thing about corporate inertia. When someone at the top says jump, everyone below just tries not to land on each other's throats. I watched the chaos bloom like mold. Marketing scrambled to prepare last-minute mock-ups. Sales started inviting clients. IT was told to prioritize bandwidth for live streaming. No one, not one person, asked about the compliance file, which was due by end of business that day, to the state regulator, via a secure, two-factor authenticated portal that locked at 5 p.m. sharp, and that portal required 3 levels of attestation from execs, finance, and operations, none of whom had been looped in, because Danielle didn't know that portal existed, because Danielle had never once been inside that part of the job. But I had. I left it all right there for her. Everything she needed, the flagged emails, the historical submission guides, even a beautiful folder on the shared drive labeled Compliance Q4 Prep. She never opened it. I know. I checked the access log. Instead, she spent that week rehearsing her vision reveal like it was a TED talk. She paid a freelance designer $2,000 for branded slide deck. The intern print oversized glossy posters with slogans like Accelerate the Now. She even ordered catering, mini tacos, and green juice on the company card. Meanwhile, I sat quietly, watching the minutes tick by. Finance pinged her on Tuesday. Need your signature on the attestation form for Q4 submission. She replied, "What's this for again?" Silence. Then on Wednesday, legal reached out, confirming you're submitting by Thursday EOB. She didn't answer. Was too busy rehearsing a slide about disrupting paradigms. That Thursday morning, she walked into the office like a prom queen about to unveil her big surprise. Hair curled, shoes impractical, voice shrill with anticipation. She passed me in the hallway. "You coming to the reveal?" she chirped. I looked up from my screen. "Can't, got a thing." "Oh," she said, slightly deflated. "Okay, wish you could see it. It's going to be pivotal." I nodded. "I'm sure it will be." 2:15 p.m., while she was mid-speech in front of half the company and several board clients on Zoom, the compliance portal pinged her inbox. Final submission required by 5 p.m. Status: incomplete. She didn't see it. At 3:12 p.m., the state regulator's rep emailed the executive distribution list. Friendly reminder: Q4 filings close today at 5 p.m. Please ensure all sections are complete and signed. Nielle didn't see that either. She was busy doing a live poll about brand alignment. By 4:03 p.m., the finance lead walked by my desk and muttered, "Is Danielle submitting compliance today?" I gave him the most noncommittal shrug I could manage. "Wasn't reassigned to me," I said. He nodded, walked off. Fast. At 4:26 p.m., I watched her come out of the conference room, flushed from applause, holding a half-eaten mini taco. That's when her phone buzzed. Once, twice, then 3 times. Rapid fire. She glanced at it, confused, then she stopped walking. The blood drained from her face like someone had opened a valve. She looked up, straight at me. I didn't say a word, just tapped my keyboard. Quietly, rhythmically. Like a metronome counting down the final beats of a song she didn't know she was performing solo. Because the board was expecting a compliance report by 5. The state was expecting legal certification by 5. And Danielle? She had 15 minutes, a tray of lukewarm tacos, and not a single clue how deep the hole she dug really was. Subject: Q4 compliance final submission reminder. Hi Danielle, just a reminder that the Q4 compliance package is due this week, Thursday by 5 p.m. per state portal guidelines. Let me know if you'd like help compiling the disclosures you approved. Best. I sent it at 9:04 a.m. on Tuesday, not Monday. I wanted it to land after she'd had her little vision reveal dry run and just enough time to think she had things under control. She replied 2 hours later, short, vague, utterly hollow. "Danielle, thanks Lisa, think I've got it mostly covered. Might circle back if I run into anything." That smiley face. It did something to me. Like watching someone smile while they casually step into quicksand. I had no idea what she was mostly covering. The compliance package wasn't just a report. It was a 40-page Frankenstein's monster of data pulled from finance, HR, IT, procurement, and legal. It required 3 certified sign-offs, 6 back-end log exports, and confirmation from 2 departments she hadn't spoken to in weeks. Still, she didn't ask for help. Instead, I watched her unravel. By noon, she was standing at the intern's desk pretending to make small talk, casually asking, "Hey, do you know where Lisa keeps the compliance template? Just curious." The intern blinked. "I think it's in the shared drive, or maybe she emailed it last quarter." It was both. And neither. Because the real prep lived in a personal archive I'd maintained since the early years. A master file of templates, past filings, workflow notes, and regulator responses. All of it under my name, none of it visible to Danielle, who had revoked my admin access 2 weeks after the reorg. Probably thought it made her look decisive. At 1:47 p.m., she messaged a junior operations analyst. "Danielle, hey, quick cue. Do you happen to know where Lisa stores the certification logs for state filings?" Analyst, sorry, no. I've never worked on compliance directly. I think Lisa always handled that herself. Danielle left her desk 5 minutes later, heels echoing like gunshots down the hallway. She ducked into her office, closed the door, and then I saw it, through the glass wall, her rifling through the compliance Q4 prep folder like it was a locked diary written in Mandarin. I know she opened the file labeled "Read Me First," because I wrote it. It was a decoy. Just a brief summary and a cheerful note. For questions about submission timelines, contact your compliance lead. Smiling face with smiling eyes, she stared at her screen like it had personally betrayed her. By 2:30 p.m., she'd pulled Jenna, a bright but very green team assistant, into her office. Danielle's voice wasn't loud, but I could hear the panic under it through the wall. "Can you just walk me through what Lisa usually does here? Like, what does she actually submit?" Jenna, bless her heart, said the quiet part out loud. "Oh, Lisa usually did the whole thing. I think legal and finance just trusted her. She'd ask for confirmations, but she compiled everything. No one else ever really touched it." I watched Danielle nod, her lips twitching like she'd just bitten into a lemon. She dismissed Jenna with a fake smile, then dropped her face into her hands as soon as the door shut. And still, she didn't reach out to me. Not directly. Because to reach out now would mean admitting she had no clue what she was doing. She'd been strutting through this entire project with a blindfold on, yelling synergy and hoping the wall didn't hit back. Instead, she started flailing. I watched her fire off Slack messages to legal, then to finance, then to the head of IT, asking for any documents you've prepped for Q4 compliance. None had, because they were all waiting for me to request them like I had every quarter for the last 8 years. At 4:42 p.m., he sent a group email titled "Urgent. Need Q4 compliance materials ASAP. No attachments. No context. Just please forward anything related to Q4 compliance filings. Need by EOD tomorrow. Thanks." You could practically hear the collective "what?" echoing through the building. I didn't respond. She was already spiraling, but the real fall hadn't started yet. Because Danielle still believed, somewhere deep in that glittery, misguided brain of hers, that someone else would step in. That someone somewhere had a backup, a cheat sheet, an old folder labeled for emergencies only that would fall from the sky and save her. She didn't realize that person had been me, and I'd already walked away from the fire with my matches intact. Let it burn. It started with a typo. Not just any typo, an expensive one, the kind that turns a projected savings of $240,000 into an overstatement of $2.4 million on a client summary, Danielle personally modified to punch up the language. I watched it happen. Sat 2 desks away while she hovered over the intern's monitor, sipping her lavender iced tea and demanding that the Q3 performance deck pop more. Idea of clarity was making all numbers end in zeros and removing distracting footnotes, the ones that explained we were still in review pending legal sign-off. The report went out Friday morning. By Monday at 10:11 a.m., we had a reply from the client's procurement officer. Subject line, "Urgent clarification needed." The body, less a question, more a tactical nuke wrapped in polite grammar. I watched Danielle read it. Her smile froze. Blinked 3 times, her tell when she doesn't understand a word she just read. Then she spun her monitor around to one of the newer sales leads and said, "Do these numbers look weird to you?" The guy hesitated, clearly caught between loyalty and survival instinct. I think that savings projection might be a little off." Danielle clicked back into the dock, eyes scanning like a Roomba against a brick wall. "Lisa formatted this, right?" There it was. I didn't look up, because no, Lisa did not format this. Lisa hadn't touched the report. Lisa hadn't even seen the report. Danielle had booted me from that client thread 3 weeks ago when she decided she needed more visibility. I had zero access to the new reporting folders, the shared slides, the client comms. Why? Because she revoked it. Personally. That afternoon, Danielle marched over to IT. She brought cookies. Always brought cookies when she wanted to cover a screw-up in a glaze of passive aggression and gluten. I don't know what she asked them, but I do know what they told her. At 2:36 p.m., the head of IT pinged HR with a summary email. I wasn't copied, but word gets around when an email gets the subject line. Access, review Lisa, operations. The body was short. Per Danielle's request from September 12, Lisa's admin permissions were downgraded to standard user. No read/write access to the compliance folders, reporting suite, or client share drive since that date. Translated, Lisa can't be the scapegoat. Lisa was literally locked out. By 3:04 p.m., HR was just popping in to ask Danielle a few questions. Nothing major, just standard documentation practices. But the tone had shifted. You could feel it. A subtle drop in temperature when the room realizes someone's wearing a little too much perfume to cover the stench. Danielle started unraveling. Her voice got faster. Her sentences started with, "Well, I was under the impression," and ended in vague trails of half-truths and finger-pointing. She pulled Jenna in again, poor Jenna, and grilled her in the hallway about who last updated the Q3 file. Jenna looked like a deer trying to file taxes. "I thought you did," she whispered. "Told me not to loop Lisa." Danielle's nostrils flared. That always came before the storm. At 4:10 p.m., she CC'd 3 department heads in an email titled, "Urgent, Compliance and Reporting Follow-Up." The tone was classic Danielle, a perfect cocktail of panic, blame-dodging, and faux collaboration. She asked for clarification on recent report edits, hinted that process breakdowns may have occurred, even included a not-so-subtle line. "We'll need to assess where Lisa's documentation left off before this quarter." I didn't respond. I didn't have to, because I'd already updated my folder. I had timestamped every submission I'd completed before the role change, archived every email where Danielle declined review, saved the Slack threads where she told me not to worry about it and she'd own the reporting piece personally. I even had screenshots, dozens, of my access rights being revoked. I didn't need to defend myself. I just had to wait for the walls to close in. The funniest part? She still thought this was recoverable, thought she could patch it together with a "my bad" and a couple of rushed numbers. But it wasn't just the typo. It was the lie. The one she told the client. The one that landed in writing. One that now lived in someone else's inbox with a timestamp and a very expensive question attached to it. Who signed off on this? Because that's the thing about signatures. When you put one on something, you own it. Danielle owned this, and I owned the record of every misstep that got her there. No flair, no drama, just cold, boring, lethal facts. Let them spiral. I'd already stepped back. Now it was just a matter of gravity doing its job. It was waiting by my car. I clocked her silhouette from halfway across the lot, heels wobbling on uneven asphalt, arms crossed so tight it looked like she was holding herself together by force. Danielle, looking less like an executive and more like someone halfway through a breakdown at a Ross Dress for Less. I didn't say anything at first, just kept walking, keys in hand, coffee still warm, purse over my shoulder. I hadn't even clocked out yet. Just took a short walk to breathe, reset, be alone with my thoughts before the real fireworks tomorrow. She took one hesitant step forward. "Lisa, hey, do you have a second?" I stopped a few feet from her. No expression, no smile, just quiet. I didn't realize it was this serious," she said, voice cracking at the edge. "Okay, I didn't know you were handling all of it, like the whole compliance thing." I tilted my head. "You never asked." She blinked. Hard. Like that one sentence hit her deeper than she expected. "I thought it was just templates and reports, and I don't know. I thought legal was helping, and Jesus." She trailed off, hand twitching like she wasn't sure whether to fix her hair or punch a ghost. I waited. Let the silence do what it does best. "I know you're upset. I know she sucked in a breath, messed things up. But can you come back in, just for today? Just to get through this filing, please?" And there it was. Word I'd waited to hear for weeks. Please. But it didn't land the way she thought it would. Because at that point, it wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about revenge or even redemption. It was about recognition and the absence of it. I stepped closer. Just enough so she had to look me in the eye. "You said I was selfish," I said softly, "so I've been taking your advice." She opened her mouth, closed it. Her mascara was clumping at the corners. Her blouse, once immaculately tucked and steamed, was askew. A hint of desperation clung to her like body spray from a department store tester bottle. "You don't understand," she whispered, glancing around the lot like someone might be watching. They're going to kill me in that meeting. The board, legal, HR. Everyone's asking for things I didn't even know existed. I stayed quiet. She took a half step closer. I don't care about the demo anymore, okay. I don't care about the vision deck or the stupid tacos or the hashtags. I just need the report. I need to survive tomorrow. That was the first honest thing she'd said in months. But it was too late. You downgraded my access, I replied, tone flat. You cut me out. You assigned me mentorship duties like I was a librarian in a middle school. You didn't just push me aside, you made sure I couldn't fix anything even if I wanted to. She looked down. Voice shrank. I didn't think it would get this far. It always gets this far, I said. You've just never had to deal with the fallout. A car alarm chirped 2 rows down. Somewhere, a seagull shrieked overhead as if even nature was done tolerating the drama. Danielle exhaled through her nose, voice barely audible now. I'm begging you. That part almost got me. Almost. But I thought about every Sunday night I'd lost. Every canceled dinner. Every quick favor that turned into an all-nighter. Every time I stayed silent while she took credit for things she didn't understand. Every moment I felt invisible in a room full of people applauding her PowerPoints while I carried the entire operational spine of this company alone. So I looked her in the eye. And I said, good luck tomorrow. Then I got in my car, closed the door, started the engine. She didn't move, just stood there, wilting in the autumn wind, like a party balloon 4 days after the birthday. I didn't look back as I pulled out, because tomorrow wasn't mine to fix. It was hers to survive, and from what I'd seen, she didn't stand a chance. The conference room was too quiet. You could hear the hum of the server system, the gentle tap of someone's pen against a legal pad, the occasional cough trying to fill the dead air. 12 chairs filled, 1 projector humming. Danielle standing at the head of the table with a half-finished slide deck, and a look on her face like someone had just asked her to disarm a bomb with a grapefruit spoon. The title slide still said Q for Vision Summary. She hadn't even changed the file name. Let's jump in, she began, voice tremoring like a wet violin string. So, the compliance filing, I've compiled most of the data streams. I think we're on track to finalize pending final verification. It was nonsense, and everyone in that room knew it. The founder sat near the end of the table, arms crossed, not a single emotion crossing his face. The legal director scribbled something, stopped, looked up, then scribbled again harder. The auditor, an external consultant named Perez, adjusted his glasses and leaned forward. Danielle, he said, voice calm but blade sharp, can you provide the sign-off logs? Attestations from finance, IT, legal? Danielle swallowed. I believe finance was in process with the attestation, but we had a minor delay due to bandwidth issues, and Perez cut her off, polite but brutal. It's a digital signature portal. Bandwidth's not a factor, a beat, right? No, yes. I just meant the alignment process has been a little out of sync, but I've got preliminary approvals on email. She clicked to the next slide. It was blank, not even a template, just a white void mocking her. Perez folded his hands. Can you clarify which teams submitted their components? Danielle looked at the founder, then at the floor, then at me. Yes, I was there, seated quietly against the back wall like an afterthought, technically not on the invite list. But someone with enough pull had forwarded me the calendar event. No one questioned my presence. No one asked me to leave, because they all knew. Founder reached into a slim folder on the table in front of him, pulled out a stapled packet. 12 pages, my email, sent the night before. Subject line, for tomorrow's review Q4 compliance overview. Inside, a detailed timeline of every deliverable, color-coded tables showing handoff dates, missed deadlines, and unacknowledged follow-ups. Screenshots of Danielle's declining access to systems she didn't understand. Slack transcripts. Email headers. Neat archive of the entire implosion, wrapped in bullet points and quiet precision. The founder didn't speak for 30 seconds. He read the first page, then the second. Then he looked up, straight at Danielle, and finally broke the silence. Why didn't you ask Lisa for help? She froze, her lips parted, but no words came out. She blinked. Once. Twice. I was told. He held up a hand. Danielle looked at me again, desperate now. Small, smaller than I'd ever seen her. I stood up, smoothed my blazer. She said I was selfish, I said, voice steady. No one else spoke. The founder lowered his hand. Perez looked at Danielle. Legal cleared her throat. Danielle didn't cry, not yet. She just looked down at the table like it might crack open and swallow her whole. And in that moment, standing at the back of the room, silent witness to her own unraveling, I felt it. Not triumph, not revenge, just the weight of silence shifting. I had spent years being invisible, being helpful, being the fix-it machine that never broke, never paused, never said no. And now I was just a woman with receipts and a front row seat to a fall no one could stop. Danielle didn't finish her deck. The meeting ended early. No applause, no questions, no eye contact. Just a room full of people who finally saw her for what she was. And me? I didn't need a mic drop. I'd already spoken the only words that mattered. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.